about Atmanirbhar Bharat or the India Revival Mission, I think one key sector that we all have to talk about is defense. India has one of the largest defense budgets in the world, at number 3 in fact after the United States and China, and still imports at least 50% of her defense requirements. It's a stated plan from the last few years to become more self-reliant when it comes to the defense sector, and leading the charge in this is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. So I'm pleased to speak today on the India Revival Mission with R Madhavan, the CMD of HAL. Mr. Madhavan, welcome to ET Now, and thank you so much for speaking with us. Let me begin by getting your thoughts on the crucial role your company and HAL can play in the Atmanirbhar Bharat and India Revival Mission.
Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. These are two things that is driving the defense sector as far as the manufacturing is concerned. And we are in the forefront of it because a lot of platforms and equipments come from our end. So HAL is in the forefront, and we do support a lot of small scale and medium scale industries who are dependent on us and who supply a lot of equipment to us. So as and when this Atmanirbhar Bharat and the fact that that import ban list is comes into picture, when it comes into play, then these sectors also will get revived. As of now, because of the pandemic, we had a bad first quarter results, but then we have improved over it, and the second quarter looks much more promising. Down the line, this also affects all my vendors and partners in the industry, who also look forward to having a new order book positions, which is much more stronger than what it used to be.
Give us a sense, Mr. Madhavan, of how badly the pandemic hit the supply chains, and has it moved timelines back? What has the recovery sort of in supply chains been, especially the ones which are foreign supply chains?
The pandemic did affect us as far as our internal operations were concerned. It affected us by about a month's worth of production. But when it comes to the supply chain, the effect is quite long, much longer, and in some cases it is still there. There are some MSMEs who are finding it difficult to recover from it, and especially the MSMEs who didn't have deep pockets to sustain the pandemic. And there was and is still there is some restrictions on the goods movement as far as the foreign suppliers are concerned. So these two are affecting us, though the first quarter was way down our expectations, but we recovered quite a bit in second quarter, and we are somewhere around 4% less than what it used to be last year. The next two quarters, we expect that we will make good this one, but overall the supply chain, especially in the MSME sector, will take at least 4 to 6 quarters to recover fully from this pandemic.
In the middle of this pandemic, there has been a very strong push to localize defense equipment. In fact, an embargo has been put in place on what you now import and what can be made in India domestically. A lot of push from the government's side as well. How do you think these policy measures will play out? Because this has been a long-standing attempt, isn't it, to make India more self-reliant when it comes to defense equipment. Do you think the time is ripe for that kind of a push?
This was expected, and we were expecting it for a long time to happen. And it's definitely a positive move by the government to restrict certain equipments which can be made within the country from importing. So this definitely is a positive move, but then this has to be changed, brought into action. In fact, the orders have to be flowing in now, so that it comes into picture. This new order book positions have to improve. Then only the sector will improve. Second thing is this is a double-edged sword because if you have reservations in certain areas, it also leads to complacency and inefficiencies. So when you are having a negative import list, it should also be linked to an export requirements on these equipments. Then the competence of level of the industry is seen, and we will be competitive in the global market. So it is not that you just have export restrictions on certain import restrictions on certain items and then expect that industry will perform to the same efficiency and be competitive. So to make it competitive, they have to fight it out in the global market, and therefore an export clause should be attached to what we are talking about the import.
Speaking about Indian exports in the defense space, we have a hefty target of 15,000 crore rupees this year. If I were to ask you to put in place a SWOT analysis, what would you say were our strengths and our weaknesses?
So 15,000 crores is achievable, but then we should look at exporting equipments rather than just doing piecemeal jobs as tier 2 and tier 3 vendors, which is where the major share of exports is happening. So we have to look at it where we can give end units and full systems where we can export, like aircrafts, helicopters, artilleries, guns, etc. So these are the things that we are supposed to look at. And we are in the right track, but it will take some few years because order placement by the foreign countries also take a long time. Generally, it's about 2 to 3 years after the RFQ is placed by them. So it takes some time, but it definitely is going to improve, and we should see 7 billion worth of exports within 3 to 4 years from now.
Okay, give us an idea of what the pipeline is looking like, Mr. Madhavan. You said a very important thing and a significant point that you made a short while ago, is that while the Indian government's attempts to indigenize and have more defense equipment being created in India is laudable, the order books have to flow. Considering the current situation, the global economy, etc., everyone's focus is now on fighting the pandemic. Do you see a challenge there and sort of a lower amount of order flows coming in for the defense sector as a whole?
Order flows have to happen quickly now, and we are expecting a flow of orders to the extent of more than 1 lakh crores probably within next 5 to 6 months. But if this doesn't happen, what happens is that the production output from this gets stagnated. Not only us, but also from our supplier end. So to keep that up, the order flow should be starting now, probably from December onwards. If that doesn't happen, then there will be a lag as far as manufacturing is concerned. Second issue that comes up is regarding the liquidity in the manufacturing sector. More than 7 lakh crores, as I understand, is spending as government dues to all the public sectors, with quite a bit around 40 to 50,000 crores worth of it being available, not dues from defense PSUs alone. So this needs to be put in so that the capex happens and the technology upgradations happen, so that we meet both the indigenous requirement for our armed forces as well as also to meet the export requirements.
Okay, I want to come back, just in a bit more detail on the separate budget head which has been created with a 52,000 crore rupee outlay for domestic companies and also gives a leg up to private manufacturers. How well placed do you think the private industry or the private defense industry is right now in India?
The private defense industry is in the initial phase of setting up the facilities. It will take some time for them to do, but if the orders are visible and a business model is available for them, definitely they will come forward, and they can do a lot as far as both supplies to our armed forces is concerned as well as for export. They should always look at export as part of the what they should look at as a part of their business plan, and not only look at the Indian defense industry requirements, because that is going to be not sufficient to support an ecosystem which we are planning as of now.
Okay. Mr. Madhavan, I want to ask you a broader question on where do you think that this sector is heading? As I mentioned earlier, the world's focus right now is on fighting a very different kind of enemy. It's a medical enemy, and the coronavirus pandemic. Do you think this is going to have a chilling effect on defense procurement across the globe for the next few years, or do you see it of no consequence?
This should not affect the defense procurements across the globe, and it definitely is not going to affect the defense procurement as far as India is concerned, because that is a long-term strategy. Though pandemic did bring in a new way of a new war scenario, but the thing is that it will continue. The old scenario will continue to be there, and the procurement has to happen against that requirements. Especially in the north, our neighbors' attitude, as well as what we are seeing now on the Chinese border, doesn't give us a leeway where we can think about reducing the defense spend as far as our armed forces are concerned.
I've been hesitant to ask you because I don't want, any details or sensitive details to be shared, but in the context of these 2 points of conflict that you have described, both with our neighbor Pakistan as well as China, how are we placed right now?
This you should ask our armed forces, but as far as the equipment is concerned, where we are the ones who are supplying quite a bit of armed forces, we are well placed. And definitely we can fight a two-pronged war, both with, if it so happens, between Pakistan and China. But then the details of this and the preparedness is for the armed forces to reply.
Of course. Mr. Madhavan, we're speaking here in the context of the India Revival Mission, where we speak to leaders, thought leaders, business leaders from various sectors to understand how their specific companies or industries can really contribute to reviving the Indian economy. In that broad context, how important a role do you think defense equipment and indigenizing demand for defense equipment is?
See, a part of the manufacturing sector which supplies to the defense forces, the new Atmanirbhar policy definitely gives a good impetus for them to put in the capital required for setting up high technology manufacturing areas. We should look at it also because from the capex point of view, we should upgrade the technologies rather than supporting and subsidizing old technologies. So this is where we should put in our money so that the revival happens. And when it happens, we are also productive as far as the global standards are concerned. Because if you look at it, the Indian output of the Indian workman is far, far less than the global counterpart. So this is where we have to see, we have to put in money where the Industry 4.0 and other technologies which can be upgraded to Industry 4.20, this is where we have to put the capex in. So these are the two areas that we should look at it. And the Indian industry also should come up in the private sector, which will support the requirements of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
What is your own view on how large a contributor will the defense industry be? You've spoken, I think, quite candidly about how private players still have to come to grips. In this scenario, HAL assumes even a bigger role to push defense manufacturing, to give a bigger share of the pie to MSMEs.
Yeah, we do have a large MSME vendor base with us, totaling to about more than 2,500 of them. But many of them will be out of business because of this pandemic. A shakedown will happen. But then we should support the MSMEs as far as payments are concerned and as far as orders are being placed on them, so that they see through this bad period and they are on their feet at least by the beginning of the next financial year. So towards that, We are making sure that they get their orders in time from whatever we have with us, as well as the payments due to them are also made on time. So these are the two supports that we are planning. At the same time, we also feel that a large sector entry into the defense space definitely will be of advantage, because these MSMEs are not only dependent on HAL at that time, then they will have support from other sectors, especially large business houses. If they come into the defense space, then the ecosystem gets that much more strengthened, and it will be an advantage to all the players in this area.
I must ask you about the Tejas. I believe trials were on pause and now will be resuming after the pandemic. What is it that you can share with us on this, Mr. Madhavan?
Tejas was never on pause. The trials were going on. We are now waiting for the order to come in for 83 LCA. So once that comes in, then it will revive the sector, because as of now, the Tejas order book is only pending is only about 16 aircrafts level balance with us. So that should see us through probably middle of next year. So we hope that this Tejas order comes in time. Testings will happen for the Mark 1A after the order is placed. But as far as this Tejas Mark 1 is concerned, it is going as per schedule. Further, we have also done the testings for high altitude for our helicopters, which has done well now. And both LUH and LCH, these are the two helicopters that we expect the orders to be placed. So this will see us through as far as our order book is concerned. We hope to get an order book of more in excess of 1 lakh crores by the end of this year.
And what is your outlook overall by about 2021, 2022? Do you see the worst of the pandemic sort of put behind you and for the sector?
Yeah, we are quite sure that after this year is over, it will look up. Our production will look up, the order books will look up, and 2021 year onwards, it will definitely be improving, both for us as well as for all the MSMEs attached to us. So we are quite sure that this order book will improve. The position as far as the defense industry and industry spent as far as Indian manufacturers are concerned, will definitely go up.
All right, well, let's hope for the best. And of course, the dream for self-reliance in the defense space is a long-standing one. Perhaps an opportunity now has been presented for the domestic defense sector to rise up to the occasion. Thank you so much, Mr. Madhavan, for speaking with us today.
Thank you.